There we are. We are live. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey y'all.
Welcome. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network. Today, I have the operator with relationships and revenue. So, this is what, our third, fourth? I
I
can't
think
remember.
third.
Third.
Yeah.
This is our third. And the goal here has been to really dive into the revenue part of relationship building. I got two other shows, y'all, focusing on the relationship building part. One for revenue, one for just, asking for help and shit. What's key about this one is that we're really looking to develop those skills where we take relationships that we have built and then make money off of them. And
Mm,
that's hard for people because we don't like to feel transactional. We don't like to feel like we're the skeezy LinkedIn internet bros who slide into your DMs and try and
oh
pitch you on
man.
something you don't even need. And so when we talk about the revenue side, there's a lot of feelings and thingies that go along with that, which is
Mm-hmm.
why today we're talking about the inner work.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep. Yep.
why is this part so important?
The inner work is really important to contribute to the authenticity. When we are not continuing to do the inner work, doing the inner work is a continuous thing like eating, breathing, all of those other functions. There are times where we have to be more acute about it and looking at specific things. And then there is the chronic inner work, which we continue to do over and over until the day we die. If we are not doing the inner work, we lose touch with who we are, and how we show up reflects that. If we decide to 10x it, throw a fire on it to, make it bigger and catch with people, then they are getting a view of the non-authentic self, and that is what they are attached to. Yet internally, your passion, your purpose, your values are not in alignment with that. That is a disconnect, which is reflected in lack of revenue or conversions as we know it.
So, when you are an entrepreneur, and not all of my audience is, but a significant portion of it is because when you're neurodiverse, keeping a job is hard. So, when you are an entrepreneur, the thing that you must do, like breathing, is talk about the thing that you sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta believe that you love it. I have to believe that it lights you up, that it's your reason for getting out of bed in the morning, that it is the thing that matters most to you. And that is where the inner work is. Because that's not always true. How do we find alignment, right, with our values and the things that are most important to us and this thing that we're selling?
Well, in another wonderful summit that you had regarding executive function, we talked about time management or management, which led me to talk about these 90-day intervals. in which we're reassessing a lot of things. The revenue is one of them, which is, one of our core pillars of these conversations. But another one is personal self. And so, as women, many times, as ND, many times, we have gone way off of the mark in 90 days. And if we're not
Shit, I can
evaluating,
go off the mark in 90 minutes.
yes, exactly, exactly. So knowing yourself and how long, 90 days is the longest I'm going to say to go without going back in and saying, are the things that I'm doing in my personal life, do they feel good to me? Are the things that I'm doing and the activities that I'm doing, are they leading to a bigger goal of mine? Are the things that I'm doing now causing me more harm or more ease? And this is something more recent in me doing the inner work, that I had to realize that I was really living in the life of chaos because I have been a crisis management manager in my jobs and in having 3 kids. And obviously, 2 divorces means that I had to do some there too. So I have been that person that's how I manage my day, is managing everybody else's crisis. But I don't get paid like Olivia Pope. So if managing those crises is not leading to compensation, which provides ease, then I need to look at, how often do I want to be in crisis? So back to the 90-day cycle and evaluating these things, then if you look at them and you find out there are things that need to be omitted, there are distractions that are going on, there is lack of revenue or profit going on, now is the time to course correct and to make those changes. So when you look at your products, there may be some products that you intended to be residual or that you plan to have for a year. Looking at those, are they turning a profit? Are they causing you more harm in stress, in support, in tech issues, in costs, than it is ease of saying, these people are actually receiving what I intended for them to receive. They're getting the results that they desired to get when I decided these 3 pain points were what I was going to focus on with these 3 different solutions. Then we can look at that and we can decide at any time to stop doing those things. Now, I know last year, again, some of the issue is that when we do the inner work, we see and we hear messages,
All the things.
and we like to ignore them because, again, as females, I'm going to triple this up. Indie and then the minorities, we're used to being in positions where our whole job is to overcome and make to the normal or the norm seem as if we can fit in and that we can do these things. So we strive to do extra to just meet what we consider to be the bar from our counterparts. And so we do those things and over and over again, and we're not paying attention. We go, oh, okay, no, that's just a note. So that means go harder. This is a note that means that if you really want it, try some more. But the idea of releasing it is the last thing that we want to do, because we know what's on the other side of this chaos. We know that I chaos and crisis manage every day. It may be difficult, but I know that it's there. If I let go of this thing, of this client, of this platform, of this whatever it is, I don't know what the results are on the other side of that. I don't know what may come up on the other side of that. I don't know what money or revenue there may be and if there's profit in it. So I'm going to stick with what feels comfortable even though it may be hurtful, right? That's the same thing in, battered woman syndrome. Same concept. I prefer to get some attention than to get no attention. So yeah, and that's a whole nother, there's a whole nother episode that we can talk about, the effects of domestic environment on your revenue, which is a relationship. But this is what we do. This is what we do. So if we're not evaluating and we're not listening to the little signs, we're not, at least jot them down.
Yeah, journal on them, write them down in your phone notes. Microsoft OneNote allows you to password protect pages if, in fact, that is a security concern that you might have with your phone. Just since we've already brought that up and it's International Women's Day, and I feel like that's
Whoop,
a
whoop.
place we'd like to hit. If the impact on your inner work is external because it's a lack of support, then doing the inner work is harder.
Ooh.
And I think that we discount how much time inner work takes. Like, and I don't even think that's tech or culture. Some of it certainly is. But I mean, we've been accelerating the inner work for centuries,
Mm-hmm.
millennia.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Mary Oliver quote. What are you going to do with your one wild life? She walked around and looked at fields. Like, inner work. She spent her entire life doing the inner work and then writing poems about it, and now we're still talking about them because that's how inner work works. I feel like we don't prioritize it enough. And I also know how unrealistic it is to add one more thing to your plate right now when everything is already too overwhelming. So let's talk about bite-sizing inner work. What does it
Yeah.
look like to take the big hard things that feel so overwhelming about this stuff and make it actually feasible to accomplish?
Yeah, that is a lot of the key to it, because we don't see the immediate gratification from it. It's less likely to be something that we prioritize. We want to see the results. If I tell a child to stop writing on the wall, I want to see the results now, not when they finish their sentence, not when they finish their picture, not next week. I want to see the results now. And it's the same thing when we start doing the inner work. We say, okay, I'm going to use this modality and I'm going to study these things. And when the difficult stuff comes up, one thing first is, like you said, not having support. Because just you talking about doing the inner work, people are going, what do you mean, the inner work? You mean personal development? Do you mean, the terms in themselves are things that we need to circulate more, and have people question, what does that mean? What does the inner work mean? Does it
Yeah, how do
affect
you
other people?
define it? And what
Yeah,
does that look like? We're not even doing that for ourselves, much less other people.
right.
So how are we achieving consensus when we can't even agree on terms?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I know that if I speak to somebody that is Christian, then inner work has to do with more about their relationship with God. And if you talk to,
Prayer.
yes, exactly. And then if you talk to someone that's more spiritual, The inner work is about the alignment with the universe and truly yourself showing up so that these things are in alignment and there's a lot of ease that happens in life. So, depending on who you're speaking to, again, knowing your audience. So, incremental milestones on the Christian side is that someone's ill and I may feel guilty about what happened, my contribution or non contribution to this person. And with that, then I start doing some prayer. If I don't see immediate results, that of forgiveness or this person wanting to answer my call now or any of those things, then I'm going to have a tendency to pull back. If my quote unquote faith is strong enough, then I'll continue to do the inner work to figure out what else can I do. And I'm going to use those tools such as the Bible, such as Bible study, such as prayer groups, meditation groups, those groups to help me, to give me some affirmation, to give me some validation that I'm moving in the right way, or to give me another tool within that, another prayer, or another way of getting what I feel like is some type of yes to tell me I'm doing the right thing. But we have to get to the point where we don't need the external. That's the hard part. That's why it's the inner work. On the other side, then we're looking for signs from the universe. We're looking for a clarifier with cards. If we're doing tarot or oracle cards, we're looking for things and systems that are already set up that tell us within a framework how things can be, and for us in the moment to be in the present, to stay in the present, to determine where you be. Because if we don't know where we are, then we can't take the steps to move towards something else. So determining what you want to use, it's almost like at corporate. So let's help those people setting up the KPIs in advance. And so what are those markers? What will make you feel like you are moving towards what guide? And then how are you identifying it? And sometimes it takes other people to help you identify it. And we'll say, you don't want to tell everybody, necessarily, not everybody, what journey you're on or if you're on a journey. But you do need to have some people around you that can help you identify your growth, your change, and acknowledge, oh, that's, I have a friend who last week I said, well, that was a very grown up thing for you to do, because there was a scenario where they could have been very petty, and like pettiness came to mind for me. But but to acknowledge that as being something different than what they might have done 2 years ago, that was from doing the inner work. That is from making different decisions. That is from not being involved with the distractions. That is from not being as concerned about what's going on outside, not as concerned about the past, not as concerned about the future, concerned about the present.
So, uh, there's a lot of what you haven't said here that I'm just going to go ahead and say is staying in your own fucking lane. There's a lot here about keeping your eyes on your own goddamn paper.
Yes.
The inner work is very much about. So for me, the path here is often very stoic. I like the Stoics. I like Stoicism. Sterilized Stoicism is DBT, right? It's a lot of the same principles without the religious aspects. But really, what do you have control over? what do you personally have the power to affect?
Mm-hmm.
Spending a lot of time asking those questions is very clarifying for me, because truly very little. I have true impact on very few things. What I do have impact on then has to be maximized for greatest effect.
Mm-hmm.
That's about knowing and deciding internally
Mm-hmm.
where my leverage is going to come from.
Yeah.
What do we recommend for people who struggle with staying in their own lane?
One of the things that I practiced and I fell off, and then when I practiced it again, I realized, yeah, it works, is back to the 80/20 rule. So I'm spending 80% of my time in that 20% area where I know, as you said, I can control things. And the other things, I honestly have to release them, because you know what? Sometimes you find out that those are somebody else's assignment, and they'll get taken care of if you let the right person be in control. And so last week, there were a lot of examples of that, in which there were plenty of things I wished I could have controlled that I had no control over. But being in the moment, saying, now, though, from this moment in the present, what can I control? Instead of spending all the time thinking about that past era, that even though it was within the last hour, I can't put the energy into thinking about that, because that's what it's going to pull on the other side, is concentration about that. It's not pulling solutions, because my mindset is not on solutions and what I can do starting now. Like, if I was dropped in this moment, what am I going to do moving forward? And so that clean slate concept also works, so that we're not tied to the past. We know it was there. But right now, to say, if I could start all over again, or if I can start right here, right now, with, this is the crisis, or this is what I have going on, what am I going to do right now? Not the conversations, not the gossip, not the trying to make sure we tell 25 people how somebody else wronged us, not spending the time and the energy putting it on social media so that other people, because what are we doing? We are drawing more attention and more energy to that negative act, and it's not going to get us a positive result. The universe is going to say, hey, this is where we want to stay. Cool, we're gonna let you sit in this, and we got other people, because we're about to spend our 80% of energy on the 20% of people that know what they want, not what they don't want. Let's not continue to talk about what we don't want. We have to talk about what we do want. So when you're writing, that's why affirmations are so important, because it's affirming the positive. It's not saying, I will never do this again, and I don't want to do that, and I don't like, no, because the universe still doesn't know where to go with it from there. And for some people, they go, oh, the universe, we're not talking about, I mean, it should be God, whoever. I'm saying whatever entity is waiting on you to make a decision, to be clear about what you want, to state it, to write it down, in some cases, to share it, and to focus on that and not on the negative.
Now, if you need to learn more about affirmations, I have a whole show about that with the incredible Biba Atta. And we talk about personal affirmations for most of the things that you need them for. Inner work and personal affirmations are not the same thing. But Personal affirmations will help you develop your toolkit for the inner work. So, like, if this is a place where you need help, go get some help. I think one of the things that is striking to me is the knowing what you want versus the knowing what you don't want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've always been pretty clear about what I want, not what I don't want. I mean, I know those things too, but knowing what you don't want doesn't give you focus. Knowing what you want gives you very concrete goals and goalposts.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you this is the thing, not this is the thing that's going to change my life, or this is the thing that's going to make me happy now. It's this is the thing that I want to put most of my energy into. And that
Mm-hmm.
hits different.
Oh, absolutely. Knowing what you want pulls you forward. Knowing what you don't want holds you back. It becomes an anchor to
Mhm.
keep you in that state. And then we wonder why we can't move forward into the next something. It's also in talking about the journaling, in writing down these things, these knowing what you want, it allows you to go back and be reminded of them because, again, we get busy, we get distracted, we don't think about those things, we don't worry about us because we're so worried about everybody else that we're not focusing on that. So, to have it written down, to have the vision boards, whether they're digital or whether they're paper or whatever they are, that's your way of going back to it and staying in alignment with your own desires. And if it's something you no longer desire, then you mark that off so that you don't go back and reflect on that. But when you keep going back to it, you keep going back to it, at some point, what you realize is that it has already come to fruition. You just didn't know that it did. Or the way that you were looking for it to become a reality is not how it appeared, but it was here. I'll say that about, I'll give two examples. One is before I made a move from one city to another, I was talking to some colleagues about a car. Now, I'm not one, I've had some cars that I really loved and, that I'm going, yes, this, and, but I'm not attached to having a car. I'm more attached to being driven, really. And so, that's out goal. And, we'll talk about that another time. But I said that what I wanted was a car that everything was included. I don't want to have to pay separate for insurance. I don't have to pay separate for maintenance and all of that. And, some of the warranties have the maintenance included for X number of miles, which is cool. And then some of them may have on the higher end, you may be able to get insurance. But people were like, yeah, that's asking an awful lot and that's going to be really expensive. And I said, no, it shouldn't be. But I didn't know of anything that existed like that. That was just what I desired. And I said it and I wrote those things down because I put down a particular car, but and I wrote those things down with it. About 3 months later, I relocated and I didn't take a car with me because I could get around public transportation. I Uber frequently because I prefer to be driven than to drive. And then I said, well, let me start looking and see is there anything that is like the service that I'm talking about. Lo and behold, in this particular city, there was a service that was a subscription car, which is exactly that. For a weekly fee, you pay for the car. It includes the maintenance, it includes the insurance, it includes roadside assistance, yada yada. You take the car back when it has to do maintenance. You can take it to Pep Boys. They have a national account. Get your oil changed. You keep on going. You decide you want a fancier car because you want to show off for the weekend. You trade the car out, get the fancy car for this week, exchange it the next week. When I told somebody then that I had one of those cars, because now it's 6 months in, they're like, what? And I say, yeah, I'm driving a subscription car. It's X amount per week, and this is what's included. Oh my gosh. Like, didn't you say something about that? So, you had seen it before. No, I didn't see it before. But also, if you're thinking about something, somebody else has thought about it before, or somebody else is thinking about it too. So, don't feel like your ideas or your thoughts or your desires are unattainable just because you've never witnessed it before. And the more people that think about it, the more you think about it, then across the universe, those thoughts become reality
Yeah,
somewhere.
there's a lot you can say about Liz Gilbert, but her idea about ideas from Big Magic has really stuck with me. And it is that ideas don't have owners. They don't belong to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they are, while not ephemeral things, they are entities.
Mm-hmm.
And ideas will float from one person to another, and they'll get in your brain, and you'll think, huh, that's interesting, until the idea gets to the person that it belongs to, who acts on that idea.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
until we reach action, it's just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't belong to anyone. Ideas don't, I mean, even stories. And the proof for this is in science, where tandem discoveries happen all the fucking time. People in one place will be working on something that people in a different place who have no knowledge whatsoever about the work that they're doing and are doing the exact same thing. So ideas don't belong to anyone. They require action before they become a thing. And until then, it's just having ideas, which we get to have as many of as we want. Have lots of ideas. Build them, grow them, develop them, because those are the things that you're going to get to, I think, decide in what way the action matters to you. We got to
Yeah,
have lots of ideas before we take action on one thing.
absolutely. And that's where the revenue
Mhm.
is. And that's where, getting back to our business side about it, that's why it's so important to trademark and copyright, because it is out there somewhere else. Someone else has thought about it. And many times we say, oh, so and so stole my idea. Again, just like you said, they didn't steal your idea. And then when you look at some of these other modalities, you'll understand when they talk about, like in human design, about having an open head and an open ajna, meaning that you are someone that very easily can sponge ideas, hear things in one room, and then you retain them. At another point, you spew them out, but it does seem as if it's your own. Or you've heard different pieces, and now, like Breyer said, different pieces of the puzzle have come to you where they come together. And now the idea is really birthed through your execution. That's where you generate the revenue from. But the expeditiousness is what then turns the revenue. So currency is currency for a reason. It stays in flow, and currency likes expeditiousness. It wants to keep moving. The speed at which it moves generates a higher revenue. So when we're taking our time of trying to be perfect, when there is no such thing as perfection, then the process slows down, which means that the currency slows down. So even when you begin to generate revenue, you're not generating revenue at the capacity at which you could have if you had stopped with the procrastination of the perfection and moved on it even sooner. So I think that that is a big thing, and we do it all the time. And we have to stop blaming other people for the fact that we didn't move when we originally had the thought, that we didn't move when we thought about it, but then we listened or asked somebody else about it who had no idea what we were talking about, or said that that's impossible, or that you can't do it. We let that slow us up, and now we're talking about somebody else doing it in front of us when we had the idea 2 years ago, but you didn't act on it. So if you're listening to anything and understand anything, like Breyer said, it's the acting upon it that makes the difference, no matter how many ideas you have in your head, in your computer, or in your chat GPT.
So I think the issue for a lot of people, and I get this, structurally, fundamentally, I get this, that it feels like the inner work should be generating a checklist of actions. Now,
Mm.
Saturn just yesterday entered Pisces. So if you thought your inner work was yielding checklists before, it's definitely not doing that now. Like, you're getting the anti checklist of inner work now for like
Mhm.
the next 3 years, y'all. It's
Yeah.
this is a whole
Yep.
okay.
2026. Yep.
How do I take the inner work and turn it into action? There's an alchemy here, right? Where doing the work internally leads to the external work. But I don't have a map, Stacy, and I need like steps and checklists and stuff. Not all the time, but I think this is a big problem for people. How do we take the inner and make it external?
That is the hardest part about the inner work, is that it's about being.
Well,
It's
shit.
about, yes, it's about being. Then it's about being quiet. It's about being consistent. It's about being the best you for you before anybody else. So sitting still and listening, sitting still and watching. These things are always happening around us, and we say that they happen to us sometimes. The things that are negative, we say happen to us. We don't say the good things happen to us, though. Um, but it is sitting still with those things, because we tend to move around. We tend to put them in the closet. We tend to say, I'll be right back. We even give them to somebody else to hold. And that doesn't work. I had to sit with myself. I had to walk backwards and say, if I don't like this, let's look at the common denominators of the things that have gotten me here, or that this thing keeps happening over and over again. What are all the common denominators of that? I'm going to be in it. Like every single time. Like,
You. It's you. You are the problem. Thanks, Taylor. Like, it's
you
always
know,
me.
right. So then that is if you look at those things, then, and this is again still being where you are, look at those things, and you're, you want to listing out the elements that were attached to that. Whether it is, I'm not getting these jobs. Like I'm applying for full-time jobs and I'm not getting the job. I've gotten interviews or I've gotten calls. Well, let's look at that. What type of jobs were they? How do those jobs really feel? Did you really want to do this job? Or is this a job you were taking because you really needed to pay some bills now? Because if it's not, and you have been operating in doing things in your best interest, at some point, the universe is going to realize and say, okay, she may say that, but I know her heart. She didn't want to do that. I'm not just giving her the job because you know what's happening with that is that I'm taking the job away from somebody that's really qualified and that really wants that job. We have to stop trying to force our puzzle pieces into somebody else's spot
Mm,
because that means somebody is trying to force theirs into where you belong. So if you sit still, let some things move around, see where the space is, that space will call you. You will go to it and it will be the fit. Where we're so busy trying to force shit, trying to hurry up and do shit, that it's not the right shit. And then we want to complain because we didn't get paid the amount that we wanted to get paid, or this job, I didn't realize it was this, or I thought it had benefits. Why? Because you rushed it. It was not what you wanted. It was not what you wanted. It was not in alignment with your purpose. It was not fulfilling. It does not answer the why. When we go back to, is this activity going to fulfill you, create ease, and move you towards those things that you want more long term? No.
and I think the issue here is one of time. So I've written about this pretty extensively, but the idea of time management is based in productivity culture that is fundamentally flawed in the way that humans actually function. And what's at issue is we have internalized a lack of action as not productive
Mm,
and therefore not worthy of our time.
mm-hmm,
When those are so frequently the things moving the needle.
woo,
And that is because we can't put a dollar amount on sitting around and thinking about stuff. So, how do we, and internally, you and I
mm-hmm,
have talked about this before. I know this is a problem that you have, that not producing, not taking action is costing you money
mm-hmm.
because you're not lining up the next person in the call queue, right?
Right.
This is such a sales mentality.
Yes.
Always be selling, always be committed to taking action. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the flaw then is trying to square this internally. How do we sit around and think about stuff without feeling guilty about it?
You have to start small.
Hmm.
You have to start small. I am definitely, you, as you said, you know, that's my issue. My industries are restaurant, hotel, retail, as far as on some of the corporate side. Now I've got government
And
too, and those,
there is no,
right.
with the exception of the restaurant business, there is no factual urgency. Food will burn if you overcook it. But in general, in most industries, urgency is fabricated.
Hmm.
But it's a symptom, and it's everywhere. So
Yeah.
when you spend your entire time in that adrenaline response to the
Yes.
urgency, that just becomes internalized.
Absolutely. And so the urgency to do things that generate immediate responses again, though, it's not long term, it's immediate. It is take your order, get your food. It is check you in and you're going to your room now. I'm not checking you in and you're coming back in 3 months to go on vacation. It is, I am running your application to send you out with a phone today. You're not going to be back in 3 months to say, okay, I'm ready to pick up that phone. So that is, and so on the entrepreneurial side, unless you're producing products, right? But on the service side, you can't. And with the inner work part, when I sit and meditate for 15 minutes and be quiet, which it took me 17 months to be able to be in a space of 15 minutes of being quiet. Because what is quiet? Like, that's scary. And sitting with myself and my thoughts and but
And when you are so inured into that productivity system, those 15 minutes are full of ideas of things that you should be doing with that time instead.
right. Absolutely. So I had to start taking small time frames and working. So 3 minutes was the first start. 3 minutes to unplug. 3 minutes to unplug even after things happen, for me to, as our friend Jasmine would say, to sit with it. Like, I wasn't sitting with stuff. In restaurant, you don't have time to sit with. You better
No.
hurry up and fix it because the next issue, the next person, the next whatever is already there in your face. It's different when you're dealing with in your face jobs. So you don't have time to be like, you know what? I'm getting ready to go to the back and take 3 minutes and I'm going to reflect on what just happened and I'm going to come back out and I'm going to be so centered to deal with the next person. Like, that doesn't happen. If you
No,
don't, your
in the
turnaround
restaurant
time is important.
business, everyone I know and have ever known long term in the restaurant business smokes so that they can get those 3 minutes at a time. Because you don't otherwise. The only time you can get 3 minutes is when you go and stand at the back door and smoke a cigarette, because otherwise you're expected to be on the clock all the time.
Let me
It's
tell you, you are exactly right. So when I was with the government working with Social Security Administration, I would go out on smoke break. I didn't smoke, but that was the cue. That's what people had to say to get that extra 15 minutes in a day. And so I'd be like, I'm going on a smoke break. Somebody's like, you don't smoke. And I said, that's your judgment call, but I'm going on smoke break. That's what I said. And so therefore they can't challenge it. That's what the process is. So I've been going on smoke breaks since, like for years and years. But that's the truth. So that's even, how do we do that in itself? We take a vice and we say, if you have this vice, then you get rewarded. But the people that don't have the vice, anyway. So
Oh, and truly, that very much plays in here, that we're rewarding bad behavior with time,
hmm
because the fundamental relationship with time is flawed. And the more that you start picking out these little things, the easier it is for you to say, oh, well, all of this shit is completely and totally fucked. So I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want now.
but yeah, let's go back to the 3 minutes to take that time out. to sit with something. Then it became 5 minutes to be intentional to disconnect. I'm very much the kind of person to carry around my phone, carry it in the bathroom, carry it in the kitchen, carry it in the. So 5 minutes, not being connected to that. It's in another room. I'm doing something else. I may be still moving. I'm not quote unquote meditating as people say, but I'm disconnecting and I am training in myself and giving myself discipline to not be in response to text, emails, notifications, fire signals that go off on that phone.
And the research clearly indicates that having your phone in a visual line of sight absolutely impacts the number of times that you look at the fucking thing. Like, even if it's
Yeah.
face down, my awareness of it is that it's right there. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing notifications. Y'all, they're so smart. They do this deliberately. And so when it's time for deep or intense or concentrated work, this fucking thing needs to go in a drawer.
Absolutely. So then the next phase of it is finding an activity that you can focus on for 10 minutes after you've learned and trained yourself to, let go of the electronics. 10 minutes of being intentional, whether it's reading, whether it's walking in the grass or walking outside, whether it is stargazing, whether it is something I've come across that somebody does is actually running water in the bathroom, sink, warm water, and just putting our hands under the water. One, we're made up of, more than 80% water ourselves. So that's connecting with our natural nature. Two, temperature wise, you can control. So if you are anxious, cold water, just, leaving it on cold, letting it run, hands under that will help calm down the anxiety. If you are at a point where you may have a lot of tension, then the warm water and feeling, connected to allow that flow of energy to go through. And just being intentional about the 10 minutes, because in that 10 minutes, then what starts to happen is you have nothing else to do. And the first times, of course, it's all of the, like you said, it's the what else could I be doing? And now after you've trained yourself, it is kind of what can I be fixing?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm thinking about solutions to things that are known issues, and I have time to kind of think it through without somebody else's input, not having that initial conversation with your coach or your spouse or somebody else. This is you and you, because if you listen, you already has the answer. You just don't listen to yourself about yourself. We're still too influenced about with the external forces to listen to ourselves.
I also want to add arts and crafts here, but only if you do not sell those fucking things. Because if you sell your art or your craft, it's no longer inner work time, it's work time.
Mm,
And fundamentally, the point of a hobby is to do something badly over and over and over again. You're not supposed to be, I mean, if you want to be good at it, right? It's a skill. You can get better. Knitting, crochet, all of those types of handicrafts are things that you can turn your brain off once you know how to do. But do not try and use hobby time as turning it into something that you can monetize later. That is just antithetical to what we're after here.
hobbies become hustles. That's
Always.
what. That's what.
I think, too, it's important to really consider what you enjoy when you're shutting off your brain. Like
Mhm.
how if if you don't if you hate exercise, taking a walk's probably not going to do it for you. You're going to be like Pingu.
Mhm.
Well, now I don't wanna. And
Mhm.
it's not going to achieve the effect that you're after. But when we hate it all so much because it feels wrong to be not doing something productive, then lean into the sensory things. Things that sound good, taste good, feel good on your skin. Those things are how you separate your thinking brain from your doing brain.
And that became the half an hour detox bath
Ooh,
with no
see?
phone, because that feels good to me. That sounds good with the right elements. It smells good. And I am still one with myself, um, and allowing the release of things to happen. It is also, for some people, it's showers where you actually release physically through crying, through tears, to allow yourself to be cleansed. Um, that is, so that's building up to that half an hour. And then are you listening to meditative music if that works for you? Do you have candles lit if that is what you like? The aromatics play into it. So back to what works for you, what brings you to that state of nothing else is going on around me, or I'm not worried about the things that are going on around me, and setting boundaries for you to be able to do it. Don't set yourself up to take that bath at 6 o'clock on a Thursday night, knowing that you've just got in from picking up kids from soccer. You've got to get dinner done and you're trying to run your water. Right here, we're rushing again. Run your water to do the stuff with the kids, to be able to jump into the bathtub so that you can then know that's not how it works. There's preparation all around this. You need to have prep time going into it, and you need to have the time after it for recovery, where you're still in that peaceful state and you can allow yourself to stay longer if you so choose, and to set the boundaries within your household. If you have kids, if you have a spouse, if you have a roommate, if you have animals, setting the boundaries so that you can be able to do that, and start with the smaller time if possible. If it's only 15 minutes, then again, we're at 15 minutes, and then increase it. There are times I've done 90-minute baths. Now, have the whole time been that process? No, but I've had that within it, and then I've allowed for myself to do something else that I enjoy outside of that. So, yeah, I think, and rewarding yourself each and every time that you successfully do it, and reward yourself for each time that you prepared to do it and it may not have happened because of life, because it was your intention, though. Setting the intention is so
Right.
important.
And I think that's what's key here about inner work that I want really to take away from here is that it's hard and it's always going to feel hard. And therefore, you should always be rewarding if it happens and just the attempt to have it happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The more that we look at inner work, because again, it's hard, but the more that we look at it as a gift that we give ourselves, the easier it is to do.
Yeah. It has definitely become easier, and it's definitely about that release time for me. I spent so much time holding on to a couple of things that, I was like, yeah, no, that's not what, tap on the shoulder. Hey, you might want to nah, I need to try harder because this is for me. This is mine. Like, I'm not letting go of this because, and hold on, and literally, just, for the sake of visual, there can be blood coming out of my hand, but I'm holding on to this thing as tight as I can because I don't want to lose it, because I don't know what. And then when you start to say, Have I been notified about this before? Open. Is there a possibility that there's something better on the other side? Open. Can I control what may possibly be on the other side of it? Open. So when you just start to think about the options and controlling things from that moment and creating from that moment what could be the reality on the other side, you start to say, hold up, why was I holding on to that? Well, now I can have this. And so the story about this week will come out eventually. I believe that this is going to be a written one to talk about this story, but it's exactly what you've been saying, Briar. It's about doing the inner work to get to the point where those decisions that are being made internally are coming from that place of not consulting, of not being about, well, how is it going to affect everybody else? Not being about, well, but in the past, but in the future.
No, because inner work equals inner knowing.
hmm
And
Yeah.
that's it.
And those
That's
decisions start to come easier and easier. Your awareness, self awareness, and awareness of how other things are impacting you become greater and greater, almost to the point where you're kind of freaked out. You're freaked out by, was it really this easy? And if I had done some of this stuff a while ago, where might I be? So start now. I need to start now making these decisions and listening to myself. Stop. I can't blame. Stop shifting blame on other people as well. And if I couldn't control it, I couldn't control it. Let go of that. Let go of it. I don't need to take it in my bag to remind me. No, because I need to shop for new things. So I need to make room. So release that so that you can receive what is really meant to be for you and to move with other people that are doing the same. Because back to that, not only support, but being in alignment with other people that believe in doing the work. Because if you're doing the work and other people around you are not ready to grow or do the work, there will be a lot of conflict.
mhm.
A lot of conflict.
All right, my friend. What are we talking about next week?
Um, I know the inner work took over, but
hmm
let's talk about four type of relationships that really can lead to revenue and how to utilize them to get there.
Amazing. It'll be fun, y'all.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Well, this has been relationships and revenue with the operator. And I think that the relationship with yourself is the most important one.
It
So
is.
start there and then everything else follows.
It's the one you can always get back to.
That's correct. This has been the Neurodiversity Media Network. You can find us at, finally, the neurodiversitymedianetwork.com.
Hey.
Right? I'm so excited. Paid subscribers get access to a couple of private streams. Plus, you get to help build and support this work. We are building master classes with some truly fabulous people whose internet just cut out. And we're doing the work together and having an incredible time. So if you would like to support that, please come join us, neurodiversitymedianetwork.com, and we will see you all again next time. Talk to you later, y'all. Bye.